He was just killing time, lazily swiping through his phone gallery the way we all do. Random selfies, old screenshots, a blurry dinner shot, and then he froze. His thumb hovered in midair. There was a photo that shouldn't exist. The screen showed him lying in bed, sound asleep. His head tilted slightly to the side, his chest rising and falling. Everything about it looked disturbingly real. Except, he was wide awake right now, holding his phone in his hand. For a moment, his brain refused to process it. Maybe it was an old picture? Maybe someone sent it to him? He checked the details. Taken at 9:17 p.m. Just 5 minutes ago. He felt his stomach drop. Who took it? He lived alone. His apartment door was locked. Or at least, he thought it was. The silence in the room suddenly felt heavier, pressing in around him. He glanced at his door, half expecting it to swing open. The shadows in the corner seemed thicker than usual. His heart raced as he replayed the possibilities in his head. A glitch? A prank? Or something far worse? He zoomed in on the photo, desperate for answers. That's when he noticed something chilling. In the reflection of the window behind him, there was a figure, a shape, someone standing over his bed. His throat went dry. Every instinct screamed at him to get out, but his body wouldn't move. Who was in his apartment? Was someone watching him even now? He switched to the camera app, pointing it shakily around the room. Nothing. Just his empty walls, his desk, his chair. But when he flipped back to the gallery, the picture was still there, clearer than ever. His own sleeping face. The figure in the background. He locked his phone, tried to convince himself it was some glitch, some trick of the light. But the screen lit up again on its own. The gallery reopened. A new picture appeared. His hand trembled as he stared at it. This time, the photo showed him holding the phone, just like he was doing now. Except in the photo, someone's hand was reaching over his shoulder. And then, the lights flickered. The phone in his trembling hands felt heavier than it ever had before. His pulse thundered in his ears, drowning out the quiet hum of the apartment around him. That photograph, the one that shouldn't exist, was still on the screen. A shot of him sleeping, taken just minutes ago, even though he hadn't closed his eyes once today. At first, he thought maybe it was a trick, maybe a glitch in the gallery, or some forgotten old photo resurfacing. But the timestamp told another story. It was from 6:42 p.m. That was exactly 3 minutes before he opened his phone. His throat tightened as he stared harder, zooming in on the image. His blanket was folded the same way it was right now. His curtains lit in the same dim evening glow. Even the glass of water on the nightstand was still half full, as if frozen in time. This wasn't the first time strange things had happened to him. Growing up, Daniel often felt as though someone, or something, watched from the edges of his life. He would notice objects move from their usual places, hear faint whispers when he was alone, or find his journal left open on pages he hadn't touched. He'd convince himself it was just his imagination, the byproduct of an overactive mind. But now, with evidence staring back at him through a glowing screen, he couldn't explain it away. He remembered his mother warning him as a child. Always trust your instincts, Daniel. If you ever feel like something is wrong, it usually is. She had said those words after his father vanished without explanation one night, leaving behind no trace but a locked study and a half-written letter. For years, Daniel buried that memory, refusing to connect it to his own life. But tonight, as his reflection wavered on the black glass of his phone, he wondered if whatever haunted his father had finally found him. The weight of silence grew unbearable. The apartment seemed to close in, shadows thickening in the corners, the tick of the clock too loud, the faint creak of floorboards. Where no one walked, his chest tightened as his thoughts spiraled. If the photo wasn't taken by him, then who had the phone in their hands? And worse, where were they now? His eyes darted across the room, searching for signs of intrusion. The door was locked, the windows latched, no signs of forced entry. And yet, that photo existed. It was proof that someone or something was inside his world, moving with terrifying precision, just beyond his awareness. Daniel's grip on the phone tightened until his knuckles turned pale. For the first time, he wasn't just afraid of the dark outside. He was afraid of what might already be inside. The lights buzzed faintly, then steadied, but the air in the room felt different, charged, like the seconds before a thunderstorm. He sat frozen, staring at the newest photo on his phone. A hand. Not his. Not possible. His mind fought to explain it away. Maybe a glitch, maybe his imagination stitching things together. But deep down, he knew the truth no one wants to face. Someone or something was here with him. Panic crawled up his throat. He jumped to his feet, checking the door, the windows, even the closet. Everything was locked. The apartment was sealed. Yet, somehow, these photos were being taken. He wanted to run outside, to leave everything behind, but then another thought clawed at him. What if it follows me? That's when a moral dilemma hit him. He could call the police, but what would he even say? Hi, there's a ghost in my gallery. They'd think he was insane. Worse, what if it wasn't a ghost? What if it was a stalker, someone who had been watching him for days? Reporting it could bring more attention, more danger. His chest tightened under the weight of choice: run, fight, or pretend it wasn't happening. Desperate, he scrolled through his gallery again. That's when he noticed something he hadn't before. Mixed between his regular photos, randomly scattered, were other images. Pictures of empty hallways, a stairwell, a door left ajar. None of them were his. None of them looked familiar. Whoever or whatever was doing this, it wasn't just watching him. It had been moving, tracking. His mind spun, latching on a half-formed theories. Maybe his phone was hacked. Maybe someone slipped into his place when he was asleep and installed something. But if that were true, why did the photos feel so personal, so intentional? He sat down, gripping the phone so tightly his knuckles whitened. Then another buzz. A new notification, not from his gallery this time, but from an unknown number. It was a message. One word: look. His blood ran cold. He didn't want to obey, but his eyes darted up anyway. Across the room, his mirror leaned against the wall. In its reflection, the room looked the same. Except it wasn't. In the reflection, he wasn't standing. He was still lying on the bed, sleeping peacefully, the shadowy figure bent over him. He staggered back, his breath catching in his throat. Was he awake? Was he dreaming? The lines between reality and nightmare blurred so sharply he felt dizzy. He rubbed his eyes, tried to snap himself out of it. But when he opened them, the mirror image had changed again. Now, the figure was gone, and his reflection was grinning, wide, unnatural, stretching far beyond what a human mouth could. For the first time, tears welled in his eyes. He wasn't just scared anymore. He felt violated, trapped in his own space, in his own body. His phone buzzed again. Another photo. He didn't even want to look, but he did. And what he saw this time nearly made him drop the phone. The new picture wasn't of him sleeping. It wasn't of his room. It was outside, taken from the street, showing the window of his apartment, lights flickering behind the curtains. Someone was watching from out there now, and they were getting closer. Daniel could barely breathe. His chest rose and fell in shallow bursts as he sat frozen. His phone's glow the only fragile light in the thickening dark. Every sound magnified. The hum of the refrigerator, the faint buzz of the ceiling light, even the rasp of his own breath. He forced himself to stand. His legs shook beneath him, knees threatening to buckle. The photo still burned into his mind. Whoever, or whatever, had taken it was close. Too close. He scanned the apartment again. Nothing. No broken locks. No open windows. And yet the silence pressed down like a weight, demanding he move carefully, cautiously, as though someone were listening. He set the phone on the nightstand and reached for the closet. His fingers hovered over the handle, hesitating. The thought stabbed at him. What if he opened it and found someone waiting? He pulled anyway. The door creaked open. Empty. Just shirts, jackets, and shadows. But then, a faint vibration. His phone lit up again. Another notification. His heart stopped. Slowly, he turned back to the screen. New photo, saved to gallery. His throat went dry. He hadn't touched the camera. Hands trembling, he opened it and froze. This time the photo wasn't of him sleeping. It was of him standing right now. The exact pose. The same wide eyes. His hand still gripping the closet door. Only behind him, in the photo, there was something else. A figure, barely visible. Just a blurred silhouette at the edge of the frame, near the hallway. His blood ran cold. Daniel spun toward the hallway. Empty. The space stretched longer than it should have, shadows pooling unnaturally against the walls. He staggered backward, heart hammering, as the air grew heavier. His father's study was at the end of that hallway, the one room he had never opened since the night his father vanished. A sick thought crept in. What if the answers had been there all along? The floor creaked, not beneath his feet, from the hallway. "Hello." His voice cracked. No reply, just the same suffocating silence. He stepped forward. 1, 2, every movement loud against the stillness. His fingers brushed the wall for balance, tracing the familiar grooves in the paint. The phone buzzed again in his pocket. He yanked it out. Another photo. His pulse spiked. This time it showed him halfway down the hall, phone in hand. And behind him, clearer now, the silhouette. Closer. Tayir. Watching. Daniel's legs threatened to give way. He spun again. Nothing but air. His father's words from that unfinished letter whispered back to him. Fragments he'd memorized even as a child. If it finds you, don't let it in. He swallowed hard, eyes locked on the closed door at the hallway's end. The study. His father's study. His only possible answer. The air thickened, the lights flickered, and somewhere behind him the floor groaned again. Closer, heavier, deliberate. Daniel reached for the doorknob and stopped. The phone vibrated once more in his hand. His stomach twisted as he looked. A new photo. This one showed him standing at the study door, taken from just inches behind him. His hands shook so violently he nearly dropped the phone, but his eyes couldn't look away from the photo of his apartment window. Whoever was out, there wasn't hiding anymore. They wanted him to know. He darted to the window, heart pounding, but the street outside was empty. No figures, no faces, just still night air. He exhaled, shaky, almost convincing himself it was paranoia, until the phone buzzed again. Another photo. This one wasn't of the window. It was of him, standing right there, looking out. The picture had been taken from inside the room. His body froze. He spun around, scanning every corner, every shadow, but there was no one. Or at least, no one he could see. The betrayal of his own senses gnawed at him. His sight, his hearing, even his touch could no longer be trusted. Then came the twist. A new text message appeared from the same unknown number. Stop looking at the wrong place. His throat tightened. The wrong place? His eyes fell to the mirror again. He didn't want to, but something inside compelled him. The reflection didn't show him anymore. Instead, it showed the street below, as if the mirror was a window into somewhere else. And in that vision, he saw himself. Only it wasn't him. It was another version of him, standing motionless, staring up toward the apartment, eyes black and hollow. The moral stakes hit hard. Was this an intruder, a ghost, or himself? Was the enemy outside, or inside his own identity? His instincts screamed to smash the mirror, to shatter the false reality, but a chilling thought stopped him. What if breaking it lets whatever's inside come out? For the first time, he considered running. Forget the phone, the photos, the questions. Just escape. But then, another complication, a call came through. The screen flashed with the name of his best friend. Relieved, he answered. "Man, something's happening. You need to." But the voice on the other end cut him off. "Calm. Cold. I told you not to check the gallery." His stomach dropped. He pulled the phone away from his ear, staring at the contact name. It was his best friend's number. But the voice, it wasn't his friend. The betrayal hit like a knife. Someone had gotten inside, not just his home, not just his mirror, but his life, his trust. And then the voice spoke again, slow and deliberate. "You think this is about you? You've already been replaced. Look closer." Before he could respond, his phone camera activated on its own, flipping to selfie mode. His face filled the screen. But the man staring back wasn't panicked, wasn't terrified. He was calm, smiling. And then that version of him, the one inside the phone, spoke. Not with his voice, but with something darker, echoing. "You're the shadow, not me." The room spun. For the first time, he questioned not who was watching him, but whether he was even real. Daniel's hand shook on the doorknob. The latest photo burned in his mind, himself at this very door with something just behind him. He didn't dare look over his shoulder. His breath came shallow, his body locked between fight and flight. But deep inside, something broke. Fear gave way to resolve. If he kept running, he'd never escape. Whatever haunted his family, whatever stole his father, it was waiting. And he was done being a prisoner in his own life. He twisted the knob. The study door groaned open. Dust swirled in the air like ghosts of the past. The room smelled of old books, ink, and something faintly metallic. A desk sat beneath the window, untouched for years. Papers lay scattered across it, brittle with age. Daniel stepped in, heart pounding. And then, his phone vibrated again. Another photo. This one made his knees nearly give out. It showed the study, the same desk, the same papers, but not as they were now. In the photo, the room was lit by warm daylight. His father sat at the desk, head bowed, writing feverishly in that same half-finished letter. Daniel's throat tightened. He staggered forward toward the desk. There was the letter, yellowed and torn, the same one he remembered. Only this time, something was different. A second page. Hands trembling, he picked it up. His father's handwriting rushed across the page, desperate, uneven. Daniel. It watches through the glass. Every reflection is a door. That's how it comes. I couldn't stop it. But you might. Don't let it take your face. A chill shot through him. Reflections. The phone screen. The photos. That's how it had been tracking him. The air behind him shifted. A cold presence. Daniel turned. The silhouette stood in the doorway now, tall, distorted, its edges rippling like smoke in a draft. Its face was nothing but a void, yet his own features flickered across it, mimicking him imperfectly, like a corrupted mirror. His instincts screamed to run, but the letter's words anchored him. Don't let it take your face. Daniel raised the phone. The screen lit the darkness. The creature shuddered, its forms stretching, bending toward the glow. Every photo, every reflection, it fed on them. He understood now. The phone wasn't just a witness. It was the open door. His thumb hovered over the screen. He could take another photo, but that's what it wanted. Instead, with a burst of defiance, he hurled the phone at the ground. It shattered, screen exploding into shards of glass. The thing recoiled violently, its body twisting in agony as if the link had been severed. Shadows collapsed inward, folding, until nothing remained but silence. Daniel stood trembling, surrounded by shards of his own reflection. The study was quiet again. Empty. For the first time in years, he exhaled fully. The weight lifted. But as he turned back to the desk, his heart froze once more. A fresh photo lay atop the papers. Not taken by his phone was in pieces. The photo showed Daniel himself, standing in this room, relief in his eyes, and just behind him, his father's face, smiling faintly, though his body was nowhere to be seen. The world around him felt unstable, as though the walls of his apartment were just paper sets, ready to collapse. He kept staring at the smiling version of himself on the phone screen. The reflection looked alive, while he felt hollow, drained, and unsure of what he was anymore. The buzzing stopped. The messages stopped. The photos stopped. Silence filled the room, heavy but strangely calm. His breathing slowed, and for the first time that night, he found the strength to think clearly. Pieces of the puzzle fell into place. The figure in the background, the photos taken from impossible angles, the voice on the phone. It wasn't an intruder, not in the way he thought. It was a replacement, a copy, something that had been watching long enough to learn him, mimic him, and perhaps surpass him. He turned toward the mirror again. The reflection no longer showed shadows or alternate versions. It just showed him, pale and exhausted, eyes red from fear. But deep in that reflection, almost invisible, was the faintest curve of a smile that didn't belong to him. He understood then. The real danger wasn't outside, or even inside his apartment. It was within himself, the part of him that hid behind screens, behind masks, pretending everything was fine. The story wasn't about being haunted by another. It was about being haunted by himself. His phone buzzed one last time. One final photo appeared in the gallery. Not of him asleep, not of the window. This one showed an empty room. His room, but he wasn't in it. His hand shook, but he felt a strange peace. Maybe this was the truth. He had already been erased, replaced by the version of himself smiling through the glass. Maybe all the fear, the paranoia, was the last fight of someone fading away. And maybe that wasn't such a bad thing. He set the phone down slowly. For the first time, the silence felt comforting instead of suffocating. He whispered to himself, "Have to believe it, have to let go." Sometimes the scariest thing you'll ever face is yourself. The screen dimmed. The apartment stayed still. Nothing moved, nothing flickered. Just the echo of his words in an empty room. And that's where the story leaves us, with a reflection, a warning. Technology, mirrors, even our own thoughts can betray us. But the real horror is forgetting who we are when shadows begin to look more convincing than our true selves. So tonight, when you scroll through your phone gallery or glance into a mirror, ask yourself, who's really looking back? Because sometimes it's not you.